Gabriel Muduma is the deputy government.
And why are you not calling me doctor? Hey.
Let's cover that. Yes, Senator, you had a point before we went on a break.
No, what was the point?
So the point is then you had 4 of your party members who have been incorporated in government, and the wholesale failure that you talked about. How will they shoulder the burden for the next 3 years remaining, given that some key members of your party are now in government and serving in very critical dockets in cabinet?
I love the way you said that how will they solve the problem? So the problem already exists. Now, let me be very, very categorical here. Is that, and I've said this on this show, that the president had the prerogative of choosing who to serve in his cabinet. He chose 4 of our colleagues, 2 of them who did not have any jobs because they were former governors. Mm-hmm. He looked into their eyes and requested them they go to serve him. Okay? It would be very wrong for me to quickly say, or to say that they will perform miraculously. You know, you've already gotten into a point where there are so many crises in this country. So it's about, we just have to wait. I wish they could turn back the hands of time and start afresh. But of course they can't. There's a lot of mess already. Now, if you go back historically, and I don't know whether you read this in my piece, I think, for once, I'm going to say the president was a bit very careful in his choices. He looked back and he said, what role did Mbadi play in terms of shaping the devolved government structure? If you go back to 2014, CPA Mbadi seconded the amendment to the PFM Act that gave leeway to the cabinet, or rather the cabinet secretary for treasury, to be able to borrow outside the consolidated fund. You know, essentially amending Article 207 of the Constitution through the back door. So really he said, look, this guy was among the people who created this mess, come and fix it. So for me, it's about, I want to watch. I'm just like every other Kenyan. I'll play my role as a legislator. I will check the government. I will not be shy to say that it doesn't matter whether you're from the ODM party or not. I represent the interest of Kenyans, you know. And my job would be, I will look at what Mbadi will do. I heard him saying that in the midterm strategy, they will be able to reduce taxes, which is welcome. I hope that they can be able to welcome that. Secondly, I hope that he can be able to resubmit the Finance Act or the Finance Bill in Parliament, taking into consideration the issues raised by the Gen Zs and all the other Kenyans, you know, and actually being very realistic, you know, and doing away with promises. I think if you look at the way the architecture of the Finance Act is, it initially, the framers of the Constitution had in mind a system that would be able to make it easy for Kenyan businesses to be able to thrive. Okay. We are an agricultural economy. Why do we have to tax every agricultural, equipment? You know, we're talking about dairy farming. My colleagues here, the 3 of us are dairy farmers. You know, we want to lead to show our farmers. But unfortunately is that when we talk about adding value addition, where most of the money comes in, anytime you import in any equipment, you are charged millions of shillings in terms of excise duty, import duty, VAT. So it makes it sort of like hinders that. So
and how does he then heed this advice from his immediate predecessor, Professor Njuguna Ndungu, who during the handover said that he told John Barry that one of the ways the country could increase tax as a percentage of gross domestic product, one, is to run away from this notion that high taxes will raise high tax revenues. And Njuguna added, the reality is the opposite. I don't want to mention who drives us there when he talked about the external forces. So therefore, how do you think your former party, you're still party member, can heed this call from a member who find it hard to fix the country's economy?
Professor Njuguna and I used to have very early morning conversations on text, you know, and my argument to him has always been, you cannot continue raising taxes to be able to fix this economy. I think what Mbadi should do is to be able to figure out what is the best strategy to be able to improve, you know. If you have more businesses, you know, less taxes. If you're charging less taxes, there'll be more businesses coming up, and you can be able to collect more taxes. So I think he needs to be able to go back and say, what is sending away investors out of this country? Why are so many businesses closing? It's because the taxes are unbearable. So when you reduce the taxes, you encourage a lot of businesses to thrive. And by so doing, you'll be able to collect, you broaden the tax base, and you allow more people to pay taxes. You do not raise more money by increasing taxes. On the contrary, you raise more taxes by lowering taxes and encouraging businesses to thrive.
Okay.
So what Mbadi should do is to heed the call and to actually sit down with Professor Njuguna Ndongo, who I think is a fine gentleman. You know, he just found himself in a situation where he could not be able to do anything. You know, the law is there. The law has already been messed up. Now, sit down with him and say, realistically, what can we do? And I think Mbadi, to be honest with you, if he goes there and becomes a Mbadi that I know, he can actually be able to turn things around.
Yes, Gabriel.
Allow me very quickly, and I'm glad what I'm hearing, just to hear what Senator Ladama is talking about. And this just tells you that all of us want this government to succeed. Whether you're looking at Mbadi coming in, and we are all praying that every person in their own docket or whatever they represent, whether it's in Parliament, you know, or in the executive, we really want them to succeed. But there's something that Honorable said here, which I think it's good to put it into perspective when she talked about women. And I'm glad it's a conversation that we can continue to have. I think for the president to include 10 women in cabinet, that was not really a simple thing. It's something we should all, you know, we should give him kudos. You know, when we are talking some of the misses, some of the hits, I think that was a big thing. Having the first woman attorney general in this country, that is kudos. So sometimes, you know, with euphemisms and catchphrases, I know sometimes we can get lost in the gist of things. But sometimes it's good to put things into perspective. Coming to agriculture, I honestly believe. Just like what the president, you know, has always believed, the first thing was, you know, from subsidizing consumption to subsidizing production. And that was the true genius of it, you know. 54% when we say of the household expenditure in Kenya is really the food items. And if you look at the numbers, and there's something I've sent you, in 2 years, and these are facts. Send you some of these numbers. Cotton value chain increased by 332%. Yeah? Increase in cotton acreage. Cotton acreage, Abdikadir, from 9,312 acres to 40,000. That's a huge increase. The milk that we are talking about, 13% in 2 years. You know, this is the increase of liters of milk produced from 4.6 billion to 5.2 billion. These are things heading in the right direction. Remember what I told you. Everything is subjected to progressive advance. Yeah? Will we get it right? Some will. Some will be, you know, in development phases. But that does not mean that there is failure. When you look at the leather value chain, another big hit. The increase of utilization skin processing facilities from 40% in 2022 to 70% in 2024.
Give him his time. Okay.
And here he is. He can confirm, Senator Ledama.
All right.
And we can go all the way.
Yes.
You are the rubber stamp.
I cannot confirm.
You are the rubber stamp.
I have the facts.
My brother, I've got a lot of facts on paper, my brother.
Okay, let me hold him to account. Gabriel, okay, you stated your point. Okay.
Would you say?
Okay.
Would you say, Ledama, when I tell you the onboarding of nearly 2,000 digital services on the e-citizen from the mere 300, an increase of 5,000. Isn't that in the right direction? These are facts you can actually get by the touch of a button. And do you know what that did? Do you know what that did, Abdikadir? You had MDAs, and this I would like Kenyans to hear. You had MDAs and tourism. Tourism is a big thing in
we'll go into
county.
it, He's asked me a question, so allow me to respond.
I'll hold him to account.
KWS were collecting, and this one I have. With this one we have the caveat. We have to put the caveat. It weighs. It's not, you know, the amount of money that was being collected changes with, you know, the frequency is not the same. There are high seasons as you'll agree, and there are low seasons. But the average collection of the Kadir was between 400,000 to 500,000. On onboarding that service, between 400 and 500,000 per day, we've jumped to, guess, just give me a rough guess, on collection, by onboarding some of those services into eCitizen. From between 400 to 500,000 to 20 million per day.
Okay. Yes, Gabriel. Now, allow me to also state the following. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you. You have stated your point, and you have expounded on milk production, cotton, leather value chain you talked about, and government services that have been.
And I've sent you that data, by the way.
Okay, first. Okay, but just fact checking, because manufacturing of milk is largely attributed to agri-based processing like milk and non-alcoholic beverages. So what happens then to the, for example, major flagship projects of the government like the Hustler Fund, which is now in a more than 9.9 billion default? What happened to manufacturing? What happened to other major promises you made to the Kenyan people, including what the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics has said is sustainable informalization of the economy in the last year? An estimated 843,000 jobs were created, and the informal sector accounts for 720,000 of this. I mean,
what's happened?
Are you overlooking the other major pledges that you made?
I told you we are going to cover them as we move along. What happened to the Hustler Fund? My brother, 21, and the president just talked about it the other day, 21 million Kenyans have benefited from it. Are we having a challenge? Yes, in collection. But I think we need to understand what the Hustler Fund came to being. Apart from the fact that it has assisted many, and that is the truth. Many testimonies, you have people who can attest to that fact. There is also something else the Hustler Fund is supposed to create, and that is the credit worthiness of an individual. And I think, to me, that would be the underlying factor. My good brother here will tell you.
But are there enough checks? Because yes, Gabriel, the point is, also the independent officers created, Gabriel, the Control of Budget and the Auditor General have raised concerns because of people who are using multiple ID numbers to get the money. And 9.9 billion isn't, a small paycheck. We are talking a disbursement of 54.9 billion with a saving of 1.3 billion. But the overriding principle, I think the idea behind the Hustler Fund is as important as the data that we are talking about. Okay, but no, the default is where I'm paying attention to here, because if you have disbursed 52.9 billion to an estimated 23.3 million customers, and that is an estimated saving of 2.3 billion.
I told you.
Then what happens to this? How do you recover the 9.9 billion, which is the money in default?
I told you, are we going to have a challenge in it? Yes. Has the CS, and you remember the CS talking about it and telling people, we have to come for you, you have to pay. I do not think we'll resort to some of the strategies that were used there before, putting people on to CBR and things like this, but also, Bona Senator,
briefly, because I need to check the account as well, yeah.
I think the onus is on us to start talking to our people about raising our consciousness towards reigniting our value system, right? Because I told you, the idea behind the Hustler Fund is as genius as they come. We just need to live up to the true meaning that if I borrow, it's arm assisted, just like the way we talk about help. When you get that money, the onus is on you to pay. We reignite that value system. We shake ourselves and say, if I put this money back, it is going to assist somebody else. So we also have a part to play as people who are borrowing this money. It does not mean that that money exists for you to take and do whatever you want with it.
Yes, thank you.
You must realize that there's somebody else who, the same way a door was opened to assist you, when you pay back, that money is going to assist somebody else. And that calls reigniting our value system.
Let me pick it up from value system. He's advocating for us to ignite the value system, for people to be a little bit more careful when we are speaking and give factual information. But who are on records on television giving us wrong numbers all the time and giving fake promises and lying on national television? If the leaders are the ones who are coming here to lie, to actually give wrong information, we have been seen to disseminate wrong information, even on the churches, platforms, at the pulpit, leaders. So if we are speaking about reigniting the value system, it has to start from the top, because the top is somehow out of the veer. I mean, we cannot go on like this when the presidency seems to be speaking from both parts, both corners of the mouth. And that, to me, really disturbs me when I see the presidency not disseminating factual information.
Like what?
And it is on record. I mean, many times, the presidency has released information that is not factual. Many times.
Like?
Including just the other day, I think you have seen the uproar, international social media, on the German job slots. You know, the communication that came from the presidency versus what is coming from the owners of the jobs. I mean, it's something that is really, I was online until about 1 a.m. last night. And to my shock, the European Union is on fire over the communication that emanated from the so-called the mobility labor contracts.
The agreement.
Yes. So my concern is, if really we have to reignite the value system, it has to come from us. It must start from us. When you speak to public and promise something, do you really internalize what you're telling people? Do you internalize when you come to Githunguri and tell people, in the next 100 days, I am going to deliver milk coolers? And 2 years down the line, you've not delivered, and you've never had an apology. Maybe something went wrong along the way. Maybe there was a miss of some budgeting. But come back and tell people, hey, I promised you 100 coolers, 30 coolers, but I have not yet delivered. But you don't come to the next visit and you assume like people don't remember what you told them. And let me tell you, if there is anything that this Kenya Kwanza government has lost, and I am part of that government, and I must talk about it, is lack of credibility. So, we are no longer credible. So, look, look, Abdi, we spoke about fake adulterated fertilizer. I spoke about it because I bought it. I bought 42 bags, personally. And the presidency came out and said there's nothing like that. The people who speak for the government, like himself, came out and said we are lying. Only for that matter to come back to the National Assembly. Farmers came all the way from Kitale, from Trans Nzoia, from Githunguri, from Kirinyaga, carrying bags of adulterated fertilizer as evidence in Parliament when we were sitting to listen to the impeachment motion of the former Cabinet Secretary. Do you want to tell me those farmers who came from all over the country carrying those bags were stupid? We must clarify, and we must learn how to clarify government information before we release. The people who run the government communication have a job to do, a big job to do.
I'm not even done.
I'm not even done. The figures he has talked about here, proving that agricultural productivity has increased. Those are theoretical figures. We are the people on the ground. We are the people who are interacting with farmers on a daily basis. We are elected to interact with farmers. I can tell you from my constituency how many farmers had 10 cows and they only have 2 or none. I can take you to specific households where people largely depended on income that comes from the dairy sector that no longer have that income. I can tell you from where I come from that the government of Kenya did not deliver on the agricultural agenda that they promised Kenyans during campaign. And generally, I'm talking about milk, I'm talking about coffee, and I'm talking about tea, I'm talking about avocado and macadamia. Those are crops that I interact with on a daily basis in Githunguri.
Senator.
Now, let me just begin by responding to the government spokesperson. First of all, you would not expect the government spokesperson to tell you the truth. You know, because the truth of the matter is the Hustler Fund is not the silver bullet that they want us to believe, that the president wants us to believe. And the reason is very simple. How on earth do you expect to give somebody 500 shillings and you expect them to start a business? 500 shillings, you can even barely pay your transport from one corner of the city to the other. It is ridiculous. They never thought about it. Number two, this government is used to supplementary budget after supplementary budget. First of all, get fiscal discipline so that you can be able to come and tell us. Number three, my brother here has talked about the leather value chain. You show me. Don't show me on paper. Take me to the ground and show me where the leather value chain is working. You know, if you go to Narok as an example, we have the Wasonyiro South Development Authority. They have a tannery plant there. Okay? If you go there, it is always on renovation. When you go there, there's no ink to be able to tan that leather. It is corruption galore. Nothing works. Number three, my brother has talked about onboarding more services into the e-citizen. Why do you force people? Why do you coerce people to be able to bring this? Yet the Constitution allows. The Constitution, Article 206, 1A, okay, talks about money not being money being exempted from the consolidated fund if there's an act of parliament. MDS are exempted. They don't have to put their money there. You talk about the tourism sector. Let me tell you what is happening. This government has come out as a government that enrich a few individuals. Right now, if you look at the gap between the rich and the poor, the rich are 0.01%, okay, of the population. We probably have about, what, 7,000 billionaires in this country. They are the ones who are millionaires in this country, dollar millionaires. They are the ones who will continue accumulating more money. Number three, what this KK government has succeeded in doing, and I speak with facts here. Yeah. My own county of Narok, today there's a risk of the Masai Mara being excised out, portions of land being excised out, to be set up private conservative, and what do you call them?
By who and for
private conservancies. And let me send a very strong warning.
Yes.
You dare do that, you will face the wrath of the people of Narok. We cannot allow that to happen. Let me be very honest. Let me tell you, I'll be very honest. No, I'm not threatening people that don't exist. Okay. Let me put it this way. Masai Mara belongs to the people.
Allow me to ask you. Yeah. Can I then ask you for clarification purposes? You raise a very pertinent and genuine point, but by who and for who? Because you are a lawmaker and you are not the ordinary folk or the citizen who just...
We are not the ordinary folks, but there is this problem we have in this country, okay, where there is this imaginary supermajority. Me, I don't know. Me, there's a woman I love for her stand, is this one here, standing here. She's in the government, but she knows her role. She's a legislator. So she goes there to check the executive. Let me be honest with you. When we resume parliament tomorrow, the first thing that is going to happen is that we're going to be talking about IEBC. Correct. Okay? When we talk about IEBC, people will not use their brain. You know, people will now try to say, what does the boss want us to do? Because people will start counting their chicks before they hatch. They will leapfrog to 2027 and say, this is where we are. We want people who can be able to do this. You know, let me be very honest with you, and I want to send my message very strong.
So who are those
Anyone
people? Who are you sending
attempts,
the message to?
They know themselves. Anyone who attempts to come in and excise land from the Masai Mara, let me tell you, you will face the wrath of the Masai people.
Okay.
We have 3,000 acres where people want, which is bushland. Right now, there's a GSU camp being built there. We will not allow that land to be taken away.
Okay. Yes, thank you. Thank you.
So the truth of the matter is this, and my brother, let me tell you something. You will be judged. Please do. You know, you will be judged by not only God, but by the people who have sent you there.
Okay.
We have challenges.
Yes, yes.
Right now, we're talking about problems that we are causing ourselves.
Okay.
If we talk about even passing legislation, and I'll be very honest with you, if you look at what we were discussing in Parliament the other day on this nonsense of the Adani takeover, they want to take over our security, facility. There were two other companies that shown an interest, in coming in and proposing for them to be able to set up, to manage the airport. But when the cabinet secretary appeared before us, he said there are none. Immediately, the company started sending us information and say, "This is we had tried to approach them. They refused." So the truth of the matter is, the only way we are going to be able to guarantee that we will uplift the standard of living of our people is by us realizing that, first of all this is vanity.
Okay.
We need to support our people. Our people down there are suffering. You talked about the agricultural sector. I want to rush in quickly. You talked about the agricultural sector. I couldn't agree more with my sister. People are struggling. Fertilizer, fake. You look at the crops that those people who got a good yield are the people who did not use fertilizer. There are people who decided to go and use a Yara Miller and pay more money than rely on this government fertilizer, which is fake.
Okay. So, Senator made point. Thank you. You made your point. Gabriel, coming to you, and because I'll be holding the two lawmakers to account in regards to the lamentations of a broken nation, because you sit in a very influential bicameral parliament. But Gabriel, first, let's come to the fresh trip by the president to Germany, and why did the government mislead Kenyans on the jobs in Germany?
That's a very good question. First of all, and again, listen. From what I saw, the German government actually replied to a BBC, and I would like you to show me. They replied to a BBC article. It was not written by government. And I saw somebody writing, why did they mislead on the numbers? We are talking about, and understand, I told you, the worst thing when you use catchphrases and somebody does a deep dive, it is very easy to realize that, by the way, wow, they were just trying to woo you in emotionally and make you angry. The truth of the matter is, what does a non-quota mean to us, Senator?
You said what does?
What does a non-quota? Because that is the argument. That word, non-quota, because people are saying 250 jobs. It's a non-quota. What does that tell you? Do you know what that
How many
means?
jobs?
It can be more. It can actually be more than 250.
Okay, give us the figure then. Gabriel,
when they say...
Let's go step by step.
Ayub, when they say a non-quota, there's no figure mentioned.
Okay.
All right? So it is good, again, to put things into perspective.
Okay.
There is communication, and I know you have it, and if you don't, I'll forward it to you. It talks about a non-quota. So, again, we go back. Show me a point where the government misrepresented that fact. I think it is again good. Like I said, here, all of us, it is good to put things into perspective. For instance, Senator, when you...
You said it's based on quotas, isn't it? You said it's based on quotas.
The agreement is non-quota.
Non-quota.
It's a non-quota agreement.
So
just hang it there. Let me read to you the German government's response. And it said the agreement between Germany and Kenya does not include any numbers or quotas.
There you go.
Can I just finish?
There you go.
Or quotas of skilled workers who will have the opportunity to work in Germany.
Correct.
All applicants must fulfill the strict requirements of the German Skilled Immigration Act.
Thank you. That is it.
You said
so you told me. Yes, exactly.
You said
it's a non-quota.
It says any numbers or quotas. It does not include in the agreement.
My friend, we are saying the same thing. Repeat that sentence again.
You said it's based on quotas.
No, I said non-quota.
No, you just said quotas.
No.
Gabriel.
Ayub, stop it.
No,
you are becoming like Senator.
I am attentive enough to listen.
What do you mean I'm becoming like Senator?
I'm just telling you.
How bad are you?
I'm just telling you. And by the way.
Okay, what is it based on, Gabriel?
Ayub, listen. Yeah. Because we are reading about, we are more or less reading about the same thing.
Okay.
It says, unlike traditional quota-based bilateral labor agreement, this new agreement focuses on creating a framework for matching Kenyan talent to German labor market needs, and that's the same thing that that I think you've read, yeah. The Kenyan diaspora now, approximately, this talks about the 4 million, the diaspora, the Kenyans. But most importantly, the government of the Republic of Kenya and the government of the Federal Republic of Germany signed a first of its kind non-quota, same thing that you said, and that's what I've said, non-quota based migration and mobility agreement.
So how
non-quota.
Okay.
So it can be.
Yes.
There's no quota. It's like you saying you don't have a number.
Okay.
That's the agreement.
Okay.
So what should be concerned? Wait a minute.
Gabriel, I want us to have a systematic discussion here.
Exactly.
I'll allow you to finish your point. So it's based on non-quota.
Yes.
According to the government statement that
Yes.
statement that you
so
have.
it can go as high as.
So we have no specific number of jobs.
Correct. But this is our conversation this morning.
So where did
I would not
come from?
I would not be.
Yeah.
I would not be concerned about that. What I'd be concerned about with Mheshimiwa here is how many people from your.
No, before we go there,
wait.
Before we go there,
how
we
many
spoke
people-
about
Gabriel, you don't have
19
a-
value
wait a minute.
system.
Exactly.
We spoke
Let him
about
finish. Let him finish what he's
let him finish
saying.
his
How
point.
many people from Narok?
And this is what.
How many people-
this is
people
the
from
conversation
Narok?
we should be having. I'll be asking myself. We all know we have a problem with unemployment. This is an opportunity that has come.
It is not.
Wait. And I saw what you tweeted, that we
Yes,
should
and I
create
mean
jobs
that.
at
Okay.
home.
Yes.
And I agree. But also, you have to realize the times that we have accepted. The world has become a global village. And what we should be discussing is, if a child gets a reprieve to go and work in Germany, does that decrease or increase the value? You see, this is a conversation. My concern would be how many people from Githongori, if we are actually, how many of these youths in Githongori who are efficient enough, who have the skill and the education that can get a space?
We do not need
jobs.
a brain drain, my brother.
We
need.
Senator, I'll come to you.
The times that we have
we still have
we
time.
understand.
Yes.
We do not need that brain drain.
We do not need
I
a brain
agree with you.
drain.
Thank
But
you. Can I
But you will let us
I'll hold it
respond to
into
him.
account. Let me.
the sophisticates that we have accepted.
Thank you. Gabriel, allow me then to hold you to account, because again, let me quote what the German economy and climate minister Robert Habeck had said, that we lack hands and we lack minds in Germany, he said. With 700,000 vacancies currently unfilled, it's the biggest economy in Europe. We appreciate that first.
What's the number again? How many?
700,000 vacancies.
700,000.
Now, official estimates suggest that Germany's aging population, which is on average between 45 to 55 years,
Correct.
will be short by 7 million skilled workers by 2035. It's no longer just about skilled workers, the minister has said, offering financial incentives for people to come and work here. Why are you going to work in an economy that's the biggest in Europe? Why not create jobs for Kenyans? The mandate of the government is to create opportunity for Kenyans, boost manufacturing, get people employed, you have more incomes, and you have a broader tax base. Why not create jobs for Kenyans?
Definitely, and I agree with you. I agree with you 110%.
This man wants to use reverse psychology.
No, but at the same time, I would love us to create these jobs at home. All right? That does not mean that there's nothing that is being done. We are talking about the affordable, not only the affordable healthcare that we are talking about, the CHPs. We are talking about affordable, the housing project, which is creating. We're talking about farming, which is also creating employment. That does not necessarily mean that because avenues have opened for Kenyans to seek jobs abroad, does not necessarily mean that we are not doing anything at home. Me and my brother here went for further education. Where?
Philadelphia.
In the U.S.
Pennsylvania.
Did that mean that there were no local colleges? Let me tell you, we need to be truthful about some of these engagements.
Did that mean what?
It does not mean that there is no, the low capacity cannot uptake.
Okay.
What it means that we are living in times of great complexities. And let us allow...
But you're going to boost another economy far away from Kenya.
If it opens, when they go, and there's something else that I think we also need to bring to the fore. When these people go, the experience that they get, we hold them to faith that they will come back and allow us to learn in this experience.
Thank you. Yes, Honorable Mushamba.
You know, my brother Gabriel is actually straining to defend
I'm not straining.
a mess.
I am not straining.
A mess of communication. You know, I'm a communication expert.
straining.
And I can tell you,
When he's
disseminating, if you strain in disseminating information, it means what you're telling people is not factual, or it is not true, or is not timely, or is not in line with what you're saying.
Read to you a press
let's go back to the German labor agreement. The kind of uproar I've read online is actually not us taking people to Germany to work. It is actually for us to brag on numbers that are actually not inscribed in the contract. Did anybody mention 250,000 jobs? from government quarters? Did anybody do a presser or communication of whatsoever nature describing that we have been able to achieve and lock a labor block of 250,000 jobs? Because like he clearly says it, the contract doesn't have a clause that describes numbers. So who came up with 250,000 jobs? Who mentioned?
But that number,
who indicated?
That number is
because
irrelevant.
That is what the Germans are actually denying. They are saying our contract was open. We did not mention numbers. Who mentioned numbers? Where did the 250,000 that was in the headline yesterday in the newspapers come from? Who gave that communication on behalf of the presidency? That's what we talked about, reigniting the value systems. Let us learn to speak the truth.
But Honorable,
let
that
us
number
not
is
ever
irrelevant if it's a
it is not irrelevant.
It could
because
probably go to the 700,000 that he's talking about.
But you have a competing workforce, Gabriel.
Yeah,
the only one competing for this.
Sir, I did not speak when you were speaking.
Okay, go ahead, Mheshimiwa.
So,
and it's the president who said, we talked about the 250,000.
That is what I'm saying. Yeah. Who spoke about the 250,000?
The president said so.
So where did he get the number from? Because the contract, as we may understand from now, it does not describe any number. It is a non-quota. So what is rattling the other people is because you remember this country belongs to the European Union. And European Union have a kind of an agreement called service provider and establishment agreement, where members of the EU are free to provide any service within the boundaries of the union without paying more taxes and without being charged many other charges.
Because they are within the union.
They are within the union. So when you come and create a number and say 250,000, are you telling the members of the European Union that, hey, even if we have an agreement that has been existing on service delivery and establishment, stay away because we've already locked 250,000 to Kenyans and we are not part of the union? That is the issue. And that is why these people are rattled. And that is why this noise is there. Because, you know, the Germans have to start defending themselves why they have allowed an entry of 250,000 jobs, and not just jobs, but it is service delivery, yet they already have another existing and valid contract within the EU.
Which is a misleading statement by the Kenyan government.
Exactly. And that is why they are keeping on dishing out this kind of communication, denying the numbers. So the question is, to the government communicators, to the government defenders like himself who earn from this, who came up with 250,000 jobs, promised and tagged it with a contract that was just signed? Please note,
yes,
the kind of contract Kenya has signed is labor mobility. Mobility means?
Movement.
Movement with less restrictions. What is their initial agreement within the EU on mobility? You know, we have to be very careful when we are communicating on behalf of government, so that we don't find ourselves like we are jokers in the eyes of other countries. The president has just been received well, treated well, honored well, and then all of a sudden, a communication comes out that messes almost everything that we have been building.
Okay, and he himself, when he had an interview with Rochevelle, the German television channel, claimed that a total of 250 Kenyans are expected to get jobs in Germany following the signing of the labor agreement between both countries. But the German government responded shortly. It said this information is clearly false. The agreement between Germany and Kenya does not include any numbers or quotas of skilled workers who will have the opportunity to work in Germany. All applicants, including Kenyans and others, must fulfill the strict requirements of the German Skilled Immigration Act. And there is also, for purposes of context of the viewers watching this broadcast, that the Germans are looking at relaxing their immigration laws so that they can absorb many. They can absorb as many people as possible, which informs why Angela Merkel, before she handed over that seat to Olaf Scholz, had taken in 1 million Syrian refugees, which was partly one of the reasons as to pump the German workforce because of their aging population being the biggest economy in Europe. Therefore, the clarity around the provision of that statement by the German government. Yes, Senator, you had a point.
There's no doubt that we have an unemployment crisis in this country. But also, it is a bit worrying when you see the head of state going there and issuing false information that had up being rebutted immediately. And then the problem is that instead of his communication team saying, let's do it this way, they try to justify by even asking questions about what is in a number. Everything is in a number because you rattle feathers. You see, I want to request that this government stop this excitement. Sometimes they act as if they're intoxicated. You know, have you ever seen a kid receiving bread and that kid has been starving for a long time? They react, they get so excited, okay? If the most important thing that this country can do is to create an enabling environment that will be able to enable people to come, invest here, and create jobs, not to look for jobs outside this country. You know, we have a crisis. My sister here was trying to talk, when we were on break, about the challenges when it comes to the issue of the farmers. You see, if you tell farmers that within 100 days, I'll be able to deliver X number of milk coolers, do it. Give it to them. But the problem we have now today in this country, you will see the dairy board running after farmers, yet they don't do anything to those farmers. That is number one. Number two, you will also find the Ministry of Cooperative trying to create business plans for farmers, and they have gone to school and they can be able to create for them. You know, in fact, I can tell you this without any fear of contradiction, that the PS of cooperative is a failure. Because, I mean, recently we were trying to put people into cooperative and they were making it difficult for us to be able to do that. So we resorted and said, you know what, we'll incorporate these people into a company. The first time we'll have a company that will have 15,000 shareholders in that company. So that we can be able to show them that we can do it differently. So the first thing I would like to advise this country is this government is this. Even if you get excited out there, first of all, put it in practice. You know, don't go launch projects. Come in and open projects that have already been completed. You know, people are making a mockery of this launching business. I saw the other day, there's this comedian from Western Gishu, you know, sort of like calling the president saying, William, sasa iko Kapsabet boys, kuja ufanya nini ufungue, hii project yako kuja ufungue. Because people have seen what excites these people. Number two, I think it is imperative that people understand that is not, you know, going to America, going to Germany is not the solution to your problem. If you spend time, and I know a lot of people spend time, you know, in the digital world, in the internet reading, you will see people lamenting today. People saying that, guys, listen, getting a green card to come to the US is not the end of your problem. Here, when you come, you're lonely. You know, families don't stay together. You know, you'll find that when you get into the house, your wife has gone to work.
True.
She comes back in the evening, you go in the morning. So you never get to see each other.
Okay, Senator.
So what we need to do, let me finish this because it's very, very important. What we need to do now is to stop getting excited about jobs abroad. We create jobs. You know, every county must now be looking about it and saying, what can we expertise ourselves in to be able to help this economy thrive? If you come to Masai land, we have meat, we have milk. Can we focus? Can the governors of those three, you know, like maybe 5 Maasai counties, can they now say, let us realign our simple existing resources, let us build our milk sector, let us build our meat industry. We have one economy, one crop in every county. If we come to Mount Kenya, milk, coffee, you know, look at those 2 sectors. And say, how can we put all our energy here so that we create more jobs? But this business of running around and saying, oh, we're opening this thing, we're opening these things, we're doing all these things, we're destroying this country. Yes.
Because you're not speaking out of isolation, you sit in a house that's influential, so as Honorable Gadonia Mushamba.
Yes.
And this is my question to you then, because I'm looking at the report by the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics released on May 20th this year, which is the single largest source of economic data and indicators which should inform government decisions, even for consumer and individual businesses. First, now, this is to juxtapose it with the German context, because more than half of the German population, let's say 20 million plus, no longer find it working worthwhile.
Yeah.
Because the government has increased the social welfare programs and child benefits, yet they have a shrinking job space so that they can accommodate more people. Again, in our context, the Bureau of Statistics says we have sustainably over the year in 2023 informalized our economy. For example, an estimated 843,000 jobs were created in 2023. The informal sector accounts for 720,000, which is more than 90%, almost nearly there. The overall number of jobs grew from 19.1 million to 20 million. The formal sector accounts for only 3.1 million Kenyans. KRA data as of June 2023 says only 6.3 million Kenyans filed their tax returns, which is more or less now by tax burden. So therefore, why not create decent jobs to policy, to legislation, Senator and Honorable Wamushamba, so that this flocking and the tourism out of our country, of our brains and our expertise can be contained? Then you give them decent income, then you can tax them more. Okay. The problem is that you can't run away from it as lawmakers who represent Githunguri and Narok respectively, that Parliament is part of the problem as to why we are stagnated and Kenyans are unable to find decent.
Let me take it because you have just spoken.
No, I was going to respond.
Yes, let her respond.
Okay,
and I'll come to Gabriel.
Our problem is that we are embedded on colonizers' laws. The laws that we have embedded our laws on are those that were the thinking of those that were ahead of us. Let me bring you closer. I agree 100% that majority of the jobs that we have right now are in the informal sector. The Kenyozis of this world who operate from the backyard of their houses, the slaughter man who slaughters chicken in the backyard in a house in Githurai and sells. I mean, those are people we are saying they have jobs, but they are informal jobs. But what are the laws that we have made in Parliament? What laws are we making? Are we making laws so that we can be able to transform the informal sector into the formal sector so that we can be able to net them within the tax net? That's our biggest problem. Let me be very specific as a lawmaker.
Okay.
When I was elected in 2017, I saw a big problem in uniforms in the school sector, in the public schools. Let me be specific: public schools, where the informal sector is so much carries so much potential in making of uniforms, but we have sidelined them, and we have only allowed big manufacturers from outside the country to dominate the sector of uniform making in this country. I came to Parliament and brought a motion. And my motion was, can't we standardize uniform such that manufacturers or makers of uniforms can make uniforms across the country, knowing that if I make a blue, for example, a blue dress, this blue dress will definitely be absorbed because we have a standard way of supplying and providing uniform in the country. And I gave an example. All Kenya medical training colleges in this country, the ladies wear a specific uniform across the country, whether you're in Kisumu, whether you're in Mombasa, or you're in Lodwar. If I make that Kenya medical training college uniform and sell it in my shop in Githurai, I would definitely get somebody, a customer buying, whether that customer is reporting in Kisumu or Mombasa. I argued that we need to come up with county-specific, like he was talking about manufacturing. Let counties specify and say, this county, all public schools in secondary school are going to wear this color, so that the people in that county can actually venture into the business of making uniform. That is how we shall informalize sector to the formal sector. And that way, Kenya Revenue Authority would be able to tap more taxes because very few Kenyans are paying taxes. We have a problem because the laws we are making in Parliament, we benchmark our laws in which countries? We go to Europe. Where is Europe versus Kenya when it comes to jobs creation? Where is Europe versus Kenya when it comes to informal sector? And we cannot copy-paste what is not our topography. That is not our topography. It is not even our demography, by the way. You compare the demography of European countries versus Kenya, then we cannot be benchmarking in a lawmaking to copy-paste what already is not in our country. So, as a lawmaker, I strongly feel that we may need to review our laws so that we can be able to transform the informal sector into the formal sector without looking like we are punitive. Currently, whenever we present any law that try to streamline the informal sector into to formal sector, we look like we are punishing the operators and the implementers, and they feel like they are being punished.
Yes.
And therefore, I think our process should be a bit more, we should try to become a little bit more, what should I say, systemic, so that we don't look like we are rushing into issues and dragging people from. You remember the Meshoke introduction of the, for example, the what are they called? Speed governors.
Yeah.
Okay.
You can remember the uproar that was there with the matatu sector when they were told, you know, from going forward, you need to have a speed governor and a safety belt in your vehicle. That created quite many jobs, very many jobs. And I'm sure the government also made a lot of income from that activity.
Okay.
But can you remember what happened? So that we don't get to there, whenever we introduce something, people are feeling like they're being punished and they're being pushed and they're being coerced. I think we need to come up with systems as lawmakers of how to make laws that are going to be progressive and they are going to be systematic, such that we do not find ourselves...
And people targeted.
Yes, exactly.
Yes, on the same, just hang on, let me get you a second to balance it.
And very quickly, and actually you may be shocked that I'll support you on one area, Honorable, and this is on the job creation. And I agree with you, but you forgot something quite important. How do we also protect the local manufacturing?
Yeah.
Because that's a debate that I think we have not been able to do quite well, whether you look at it from both houses, Parliament and the Senate. Yeah. And remember the uproar when the president said we need to find a mechanism to protect local manufacturing. We cannot allow Kenya to be a supermarket of substandard goods, and people really raised hell, so to speak, for lack of a better word. But apart from that, there's also the environment that we create for the would-be investors, because we need them, and we need them by a high number. Senator will tell you that before any investor puts in money, the first thing that they look at, obviously, is your regulatory framework. The second thing that they look at is your judicial framework. Third and most importantly is the environment, and so to speak politically. If I put my money here, if I invest my millions or billions worth of dollars, is this environment conducive enough for me to realize my return on investment? And so this is a conversation that must happen, and I'm agreeing with Mheshimiwa. It is a conversation that must be and must form our everyday conversation from the Senate to the National Assembly and beyond, all the way to the county governments. Because let me tell you, we are all in this together. And this is when we bring the true realignment of what it means to be a patriotic Kenya.
Okay.
Because we fall or we rise, as they say, we rise or fall together.
Our taxation regime is also another problem because of inconsistency, as pointed out by the control of budget, as to why some investors are holding back their money.
Correct.
Because there's a zigzag way as to how we tax.
And these are the lawmakers here. And that's why I'm telling you, this is
and they can't run away from the problem that we have.
This is a conversation that we must have. And I'm not saying, by the way, Senator, I am not pushing the blame to you.
Yeah.
I am saying this is a conversation that we must have, because when we are talking about creating jobs at home, from the taxation element of things and also protecting the local manufacturer, that has to be a conversation that suffices. Not to be with this statement. The president has called on by saying that at some point he wants to really stop furniture from coming from abroad. So we really give the Juakali artisans.
Yes. You know, I wish you'd have just, first of all, left it to the legislators to be able to demystify all these challenges that we have. First of all, very straightforward. The problem we have is that the executive has held the legislative arm of government hostile. You know, because the problem we have is that there's nothing we can be able to do on our own without direction from the executive. So that's one of the biggest problems. The way we make our laws in this country, let me break it down to you. I disagree with my sister that we have maintained the colonial mentality. I even wish we did, because the colonials make us now the problems that we do right now, if someone looks at the colonial master, they will think they are philanthropists. For us, we are the ones who are colonizing the minds of our people. And I'll say it this way. If you look at the new social health insurance fund, when you talk about claims being outsourced to a claims management office, where do you put in the duty of care? How can an outsourced service being given to a company, and that company, mind you, okay, is being supported by very senior people in government because it's a way for them making money. Right now, the police are crying. When the police go to the hospital, they don't get the service they're supposed to get. The teachers are crying. And when you look at it, that is being held by, it is being managed, the claims are being managed by one company, which is very powerful. And that company managed to dictate what is going to be in the new law. You know, leave it to professionals. You know, leave it to the doctors. Let them determine how this can be resolved. Number two, we talk about KRA. And I'm one of those people who say, if KRA wanted to make so much money, you gave figures of about, what, 6.3 million Kenyans only filing their taxes? You know, go and sensitize the community. Be friends with people. Tell them, this is what we need to do to build this country. You know, in other jurisdictions, like in the US, you're in partnership with the government, 50-50. So it behooves the government to enlighten you, you know, provide civic education on the importance of paying taxes and what is important in paying taxes. Okay? That is when Kenyans will be able to do what? To pay taxes without thinking that they are paying taxes for a few individuals to be able to go around the world with their money. Number three, it is important, and I mean it is important, for the executive to allow the legislative arm of government to do its work. You know, critique. You know, debate is curtailed when you go to the National Assembly, the Senate. You know, when the government wants to pass a legislative, you know, to pass a particular legislative proposal, there will be no debate. Okay. Okay. Debate will be reduced to 5 people, you know, 2 minutes each. We have to move this. We have to move this. Why then did you apply to be given a job to go to the Senate when you cannot sit there for hours and be able to?
Yet you have the power to impeach even the president.
And you even have the power to impeach the president. So I think finally,
does that put into question the quality of legislators that we have?
Very true. It does. It does, because in this country we do not elect people because of their brains. Okay. Or because of their ability to change. We elect people based on their pocket.
Okay.
You know,
thank you.
Kenyans have got to stop. Let me send this message strictly. Kenyans have got to stop electing leaders because of how much money they're giving them.
Thank you.
You need to elect leaders.
Thank you.
Who can be able. Don't thank me. Thank in future.
I'm
saying thank you because we need to close up because of time. And
as we close, we stop electing not just people with money. Yes. We stop electing people who cut cakes in weddings. We start electing guitarists and musicians and comedians in the name of MPs.
Thank you.
We must decide
let's now sample
what quality of MPs we want in the next parliament. And that is why Gen Zs must actually be 50%.
The hashtag on next series and next code is number 2, just hang on, Gabriel, at Citizen TV Kenya and at IO. Jaya Musoma says Ruto and Rigathi marriage of convenience is on the rocks. Raila's broad-based deal with Ruto dealt Gachagua a big blow. It won't take long before they part ways. Two cannot work together unless they agree.
Have they not agreed?
Jalangi Kwach says there are many corruption issues which have been highlighted by the Auditor General and government departments, and up to now there is no member of parliament bringing it to the National Assembly or the Senate for actions. Ask MP, Senator and the Deputy Government Spokesperson. Sam Masika says, what can Kenya do to get where Germany is? Instead of sending people there, they come to Kenya. We'll get there if our best goes abroad and leaves the country unattended with the worst in charge. This policy has to change. Etanui O3 says, Ledama Olekian and Honda Mushomba should know as farmers that after producing enough for yourself and family, you sell the rest of the produce. This applies to labor market. Kenya has decided to export the excess workforce, and there's nothing wrong here.
So we have,
Okay, let me finish.
Some more. That's what?
Senator,
that does not make sense. What do we do? No, have we been able to satisfy our market first? Have we been able to provide employment? Unemployment is the biggest problem in this country. Government's
Gabriel, this is my
and I do agree.
Good morning. Just hang on. Let me finish the feedback. What's the benefit of moving numerous government services online if it doesn't improve service delivery to Mwananchi, especially with corruption deeply entrenched? 2 years have been mired in lies, deception, and unchecked corruption. Kenya Kwanza must prioritize action based on truth. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your time. Much appreciated. Senator Ledama Olekina, Narok County, thank you. Honorable Gadonia Mushomba, your time is appreciated. We are out of time. We are out of time. Honorable Gadonia Mushomba, lawmaker, Githunguri, and the Deputy Government Spokesperson, Gabriel. Gabriel, good morning. Thank you for your time. Much appreciated. And thanks as well for waking up with us. Thank you for waking up with us here on the broadcast as well. Up next is Sporty Monday.